Well, it's another octave. I always get to talk about octaves, and we are here in the octave of the Sacred Heart. So today we're celebrating the Sunday within the octave, and as I said the other day, it gives us a chance to continue to explore the depths of the feast we're celebrating and with the Sacred Heart, which summarizes the love of God for us. God made man. It speaks to us of his mercy, of confession, of the Holy Eucharist. It is such a beautiful feast that it's a joy to continue to celebrate it on this Sunday. The epistle for the Mass we offered this morning begins with these words. It's taken from the first letter of St. Peter, and he begins, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that in due time he may exalt you. Cast all your anxieties on him, for he cares about you." And St. Peter goes on to warn us about the devil wandering around like a roaring lion, a line we're familiar with because we recite it every evening at Compline. But it's this first sentence that is so significant. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God. It reminds us of what we heard actually on the Feast of the Sacred Heart itself, that beautiful line of our Lord's, "Take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am meek and humble of heart." He asks us to be humble. He himself shows us the way, and we see it in his heart. There we see that true humility. There we see love for us. So we strive to avoid temptation. The devil is wandering around trying to drag us down. We strive to avoid the ego fighting, rebelling, rising to the surface. We want to empty ourselves in order that God may fill us. We want to reduce the self-love, the self-will, the arrogance, the pride, all the 7 deadly sins that flow from the ego, but not to have some vacuum. No. Our Lord Jesus Christ will fill the gap. He waits for you, he waits for me to open the doors of our hearts, which can be so hardened by sin, hardened by selfishness. He wants us to throw open the doors to our hearts and to invite him in. He longs, as we all do, to refuel our hearts with the Eucharistic gift that flows from his Sacred Heart of the Blessed Sacrament. But until that time, we are now able, as you know, to come into our churches to bathe in his presence, in his real presence, before the warming fire of love that flows from the tabernacle, the heart of the church. So this ongoing Feast of the Sacred Heart is a beautiful encounter with the love of God, an encounter that's very dear to us in this country. I spoke the other day about St. Margaret Mary and her personal encounter with the Lord, revealing the Sacred Heart to her. Her chaplain, St. Claude de la Colombière, came to England and was chaplain at the Royal Court, lived in St. James's Palace, chaplain to Mary of Modena, Duchess of York, and then she became Queen. And as chaplain at the Royal Court, he promoted devotion in this country to the Sacred Heart. Indeed, after hearing from St. Margaret Mary of her encounter with the Sacred Heart, this was the first country in the world that heard about that devotion, and indeed the first person to petition the Sovereign Pontiff for a public Mass and office for the Sacred Heart was Maria Regina Angliae, the Queen of England, Mary of Modena. She wrote to the Holy Father and said, "It is right and fitting we have a Mass in honour of the Sacred Heart." So from this very country, the Sacred Heart was promoted, just as this country has been foremost in devotion to our Blessed Lady. So the Sacred Heart has a powerful connection with England, and you know that the first image of the Sacred Heart in England was erected at Oscott College in 1814, and that stained glass window is still venerated. So it is a feast important to us. A feast, of course, important to the parishes we serve, because we have a link with the convent and town of St. Margaret Mary, Paris-le-Monial, twinned with Wells, where, of course, one of our parishes is to be found. So not only is England devoted to the Sacred Heart, we're linked in with that place where the visions themselves occurred. during these few days in honor of the Sacred Heart, let us strive to be humble of heart, like our Lord Jesus Christ. Let the Sacred Heart of Jesus fill our own hearts with love. Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thy heart.